Okay, today's new Perek Bet, Daf Yod Zayin Amud Aleph. Continuing in Shen and Regel, uh, we know that Regel means that it's something that's naturally done, natural damage as the animal's walking. The difference between Regel and Shen is damage that's done for the animal's benefit. So even if it's used by the animal's foot, but it's done for the benefit, like it's scratching its foot, that's considered Shen. Okay, Keter Regel Mu'adad was considered the damage of a foot, that is Mu'ad. Breaking stuff while walking. Habehima, the animal, Mu'adad lahalech kederakal shaber, is Mu'ad to walk normally and break stuff in its way. The Gemara doesn't ask if those two sentences are the same exact thing. If the animal was kicking, or if pebbles were shooting from underneath its feet, when it breaks stuff in the way, it pays half damages. It stepped on something and it broke, and that broken cup that shattered flew out and hit something else. The first one that was damaged via its walking is full damage. And the second piece that got hit by the flying debris gets half damage. And chickens that are walking is mu'ad for damage while walking. However, I had a little kashub, something was tied to its legs. Or sheham had this, if it was hopping around, and was breaking stuff while doing that. That's considered hatzin. Okay. The first two cases, we said an animal and regel, if it walks, damaging it. Same thing. What's the difference between those two cases? The Gemara says, no, the first case was the regel, was the av, and the second statement with the behema was referring to toda. The Gemara says, el me'ata sefa. The next Mishnah that says, the next Mishnah on Daf Yotet, which talks about similar to the Hashen mu'adet, habehema mu'adet. Talk about two scenarios, the Shen and the behema mu'adet. And over there, my avot, my todot ika. Over there, what's the difference in those cases? Right? It's the same lashon of the av of Shen and then behema. Like our Mishnah was regel and then behema. Over here, we're saying we're separating it between av and toda. Over there, there's no difference. The Gemara says, "Hava kamahada le amar le." So he answered him. He said, "Ana shanai hada va'achni hada." It's a joke. He answered him back. Like, I answered our Mishnah's problem. You answer the second question. Right? I answered one question. You answer the second question. V'ta'ama mai. What's the answer? What's the real explanation? Marab ashed tana shen dahaya v'ktani shen dema. Rashi says in the second Mishnah on Yotet, it says the mentions of the tooth of a wild animal, and then the second case is talking about a regular behema, a domesticated animal. And you need both. The pasuk says if you send your animal behema in chayalo, you're only chayav for a regular animal, not a wild animal, right? Therefore, the Mishnah teaches you that a chayav, you have a chayav, you're also chayav. If so, that's it should have sent the second case first, behema, which is both. It should have counted it. Because the first case of Shen is mentioned in the Torah, we mentioned the pasuk first. Even right, so since the pasuk mentioned it, we mentioned that first. The Gemara says, so therefore, in our first Mishnah, we should have said behema also first instead of we should have flipped it around the order as well. The Gemara says, there's a big difference in our cases. Hatam by Shen idi avot nenu. They were both avot, while chaya and behema are both avot. Therefore, if one of them is a source from the Torah, from the pasuk, you use that one first. However, we shouldn't, just because the Todah is mentioned in the Torah and the Av isn't, doesn't mean we should skip the Av and go to the Todah first, right? Doesn't make sense. You can't go to the subcategory before the main category. So true that the main category is not written in the Torah, but the subcategory is. We didn't want to flip it. Another answer. I didn't sleep meregel patah beregel. Rather, no. Since we started off with regel we ended off the last perek with regel. That's why we started off with regel in this perek, and that's why it went in that order. What's the case of an animal walking and breaking stuff in its way? Right. This is where we brought down before that said ketzad means it was discussed previously. Behema shenechnesa lachatzer hanizak. If an animal entered in the yard of the damagee, behizaka begufa derech hilucha. You heard they damage while walking, ubisara derech hilucha, or with her hair, beukaf shalea b'shlif shaleha, either with a saddle or with a baggage on her, beprum biyash befiha bezug b'shta'ava, right, or the thing that's in her mouth, or a belt on her neck. We mentioned these things a few times. The hamur mas or if a donkey did damage while with its load. That is full damages. Simchu says that if pebbles were sent flying by the animal, or if a pig, for example, was snorting around in the trash pile and it did damage, that is full damage, even though it shoots something else. Simchu says tzarot is chayav, full damages. The Gemara says hizik pshita. If it did damage, it's sure chayav while the animal is picking around. So the Gemara says no. Ela ema hitiz v'hizik. There's no. If the pig was either causing tzarot to fly out, or if it was snorting stuff and through the trash pile, and that caused something to shoot out and damage, that's nezek shalim. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Tzarot man dechar shmayu. Who's talking about tzarot? Why are you mentioning tzarot over here? Why is Simchus going straight to tzarot? We're talking about regular cases. Tzarot we mentioned previously as a pebble flying out, chatzi nezek previously. Simchus over here is bringing it in on a full blast. Why are we talking about tzarot over here? The Gemara says, the Mishnah is missing word, the Brayta is missing word, and you have to explain as follows. If the animal did damage by surarot through normal activity, you are chayav chati nezek. And therefore, if the pig was sniveling around and it caused stuff to fly and the damage, chati nezek. However, right? The Mishnah is fixing it by saying that no, the Brayta did mention it, that you're chayav chati nezek, and Simchus says you're nezek shalem. Number 9. If there were chickens that were flying from place to place, that broke damages with the actual wings, Mishlam nezek shalem, you're chayav full damages. If it broke it with the wind that's coming off their wings, right, while flapping, Mishlam chati nezek, Simchus samer nezek shalem, full damage. Another case. If chickens were hopping on fruits or dough, and they either dirtied the dough or they pecked at it, damaging the food, you pay full damages. However, if it's because of their flying, dust and pebbles ruined it and damaged the food, half damages. Sumchu says, no. Another Brayta, Tanegol shehaya mafriach mimakom mimakom. The chicken was flying from place to place. And wind came from under its wings and broke stuff. And stomach rabnana, where we say Chachaim hold this and not Simchus, which is Hatzi Nezek in these type of third way indirect damages. Amarava. Bishlam Simchus kasavar kochot gufotami. Right, so Simchus says we were saying let's look at these opinions. Simchus says you're always chayav by tzarot and similar cases because he holds that your force or your animal's force of what it's doing is like your actual body. Right? I don't care that the animal didn't hit it physically, but if it stepped on something and it went flying, then it's still chayav. I don't care. However, if you hold that it's like the body, like the chicken doing it himself, or the animal doing it himself, full damages. If it's not like the force of the animal, not like the animal, patur. Why chati nezek? Hadamar Rava, therefore Rava then said, I have an answer. The olam tigu fodami. Really, it is like his body, and therefore you should pay full damages by tzarot. The chati nezek tzarot l'mechalchatag. I mentioned earlier, half damages by tzarot is halacha of Moshe Sinai. Marava. Kol shebezav tameh. Right? Anything that would a zav, right? A tameh zav is a person who had a discharge, and that doesn't happen nowadays. A certain type of discharge by males and females that would make them tameh. And if they are tameh by zav, if they touch something, even indirectly, sitting on a pile of mattresses, for example, will make them all tameh. But by force, if I throw a pebble at something, the pebble's tameh, but the item is not. So, marava, kol shebezav tameh, anything that the zav touches that makes tameh, then in zikin mejlim nezek shalem. That direct contact by a zav would be equivalent to someone touching something directly and damaging it. right? So that type of contact in regards to damages is full damage. Kol shebezav tahor, any type of contact that leaves the zav, the item tahor from the zav, right? Indirect contact, then is a kimishlan hazinazek that's chasin nezek, right? So the Gemara says, "Ravat tzorot ka'atalas minyan." Is Ravat coming to teach us tzorot seemingly, right? Indirect. Gemara says, "No, lo Ravat iglab mishachet koron kamashman." Ravat is teaching us in the case of an animal or a cow pulling the wagon, right? So even though cow pulling the wagon for a zav won't be tameh, he was pulling a rope with something on him, it won't make the item tameh, and therefore you would be chatzin nezik. Okay. Tanaka Drabi, the proof according to Rabbi Behima, what was the case of animal walking. Behima was Shanasal Hatsan Nizak, Behzika, Beguva, Derechilcha, Basara, Derechilcha, same exact right as before. Beukav Shala, Bushtif Shabala, saddle, or the pack this on her, Beprimesh Befia, Bezog Shabara, Amur Basol, Legla, Rushak, Gradon, Meshal Hazinazik, all these are, sorry, all these are full damages. Ramadan. If the chickens were pecking at a rope that was suspended, a bucket suspended from a rope, and the rope snapped and the bucket broke, we're paying full damages. Says, if the animal stepped on the utensil and did not break it right away, then it rolled away. Then it hit something and it broke over there. What's the halacha? Do we say that the animal pushed it and therefore the animal stepped on it and therefore the animal stepping on it caused it to break and therefore you're chayav? Or do we follow the actual mechanism and therefore the fact that it rolled away and then broke, the damage happened later on, and therefore maybe you should be patur or chatzinazik? Like Sorot. We can answer this question from Rabba. Rabba says, very interesting case. Right? If I throw a glass cup of yours over the roof, and someone's standing there on the bottom with a stick or a baseball bat, he sees something coming, he's like, Bajanan takes a swing and smashes it, shatters it. Right? Patur, right? He's patur because we're saying that he broke a broken item. Right? This beautiful glass thing was going to break regardless. It was destined to hit the concrete floor, and therefore, when the guy swung through and hit it, he didn't break the item; he broke a broken item or something that was going to be broken, and therefore he's patur, and the guy who threw it is chayav. So, l'rabah pitale. So we see over here that we go according to the start of the process. The guy who threw it is obviously chayav. So we say from here, l'rabah pitale, l'rabah mibarile. We say no. The reason why Rabah knew the answer by the case of the bat is because he knew the halacha. For him it was pashut, and Rava had the question. He was not sure about the process. How does it work? You go with beginning or end. Tashma, let's bring a proof. Hidus eno muad v'yesh onim harez muad. Hopping around is not considered muad for a chicken. Some people say it is considered muad. Hidus sakadach. What does it mean hopping? Right, of course chickens hop. The Gemara says elaf hidus v'hitiz ubahamelkvigi. Rather, it's referring to the chicken was hopping and it caused something to go flying. And then it broke. Maybe more savar batam reikazina, more savar batam tavara nazina. Maybe it's machlokin on how you look at it. You go according to the beginning of the process, or do you go according to the end of the process? Right? Do you go according to the item getting hit or the item landing? Umar said, no, not a proof. No connection to that. Behitiz b'tzarot b'put simchos rabbanan comes like that. So talking about tzarot and the machloket. By tzarot is chachamim and rabban and simchos. Right? Rabbanan holds there's a chatzin nezek, simchot holds and nezek shalim. Tashma shaying another proof. Tanagolin shahayu mechatitzin b'cheved li. Chickens picking at the bucket suspended by a rope. So the fact that the rope snapped and the thing broke, you're chayav full damages, shows that you're chayav by the beginning of the process. It snapped the rope, the bucket fell, and you're chayav full damages. The Gemara says no. No. The Gemara says not a proof because we're not talking about the bucket. Bucket, you're not chayav. You're chayav full damages on the rope. The Gemara says 1 second. That should not be full damages. The chicken pecking the rope is unusual. And if it's unusual, it's keren, which is chatzin nezek. The Gemara says, the ma'us belisha. We're talking about where it had the sweet dough on it. So it's normal. Right? If it's a baker's location and everything the baker's touch is full of dough, it's common for animals to pick at it. So therefore, nezek shalem. But the Mishnah specifically says that the bucket broke, which means that when we're saying you're paying full damages, we're talking about the bucket, not the rope. No, really, it's according to sumchus in this case, and even in the case of tzorot, yachayav nezek shalem even on the bucket. But the one second, that sumchus emaseh for the next part of the brayta that says nitaz mimenu shever minafal kli acheru shvara. If the broken bucket broke and then something from that bucket flew and hit something else, right? So rope, bucket, cup. Al harishon meshlem nezek shalem. On the bucket, you're paying full damages. And on the second bucket, the second cup, you're paying half damages. But sumchus doesn't hold chatzi nezek. Why would you pay half damages? And maybe you might say that you know what, it's different because over here you're already three levels separated. You have rope, bucket, and then cup, right? The tore the rope, the bucket was tzorot by falling, and now the cup that got hit by the bucket is already two removed. So maybe by the second case removed, sumchus would hold that it's chatzi nezek in that case. Maybe you might say that koach kocho, your force would be chatzi nezek. The Gemara says, but we see a question by Rav Asher. He asked, the force of your force, if the second removed, is that considered like original one in nezek shalem or not? If that's the case, then we could bring this case as an answer for Rav Ashi that this is not like koach, and that's why it's chatzi nezek, right? So make up your mind. If this Mishnah is simchus, then it should not be chatzi nezek. And if you want to tell me it is simchus and it is chatzi nezek because of koach koho, then when the Gemara has a question according to Rav Ashi, whether or not koach koho is like simchus or not, whether it's not nezek shalem, we should have brought this case as a beautiful proof. Therefore, the fact that you say chatzi nezek and it's not simchus, it must be chachamim. So therefore, why are you paying full damages in the bucket? And therefore, all this was an elaborate proof that your direct process starting is considered your koach. Tearing the rope is your process, same way as rolling the bucket, kicking the bucket hits the wall and breaks, is your koach. He says no. He says that he doesn't like the answer. He says no, it's talking about where the bucket's constantly moving through the pressure of the chicken, right? Even the chicken didn't break, the bucket didn't break because of the chicken picking at the rope. The chicken ended up kicking it or rolling it even afterward. And therefore, it's not necessarily proof that you go according to the original process, but rather the end, right? So he knocked out according to Bibi, he doesn't like the answer, it's not a proof. And we'll stop here.